Yes. Welcome to 2-5 Daily. I'm your host, 2-5, the unorthodox statistician. Going left so much you thought I was southpaw. Do me a favor out there, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Just a few things on my mind. Wanted to share them with you. So taking it from the top. A few months ago, Mr. Logical and I, Sports Reports is ordered, we're doing our college football previews. We broke them down by conference, so on and so forth. So one of the things that I said during our conversation was we really need some kind of challenge. You know, like looking at college basketball, for example, there was the ACC Big Ten Challenge where all the schools played against each other for supremacy. You know, you had the SEC Big East Challenge. So I thought to myself, in college football, more than any other really real sport or anything, is where we talk about conference strength, division strength, so on and so forth. You know, we're like, hey, the SEC is heading above everybody. The Big Ten's nipping at their heels, but not quite there. The ACC is, and the Big 12 is worse than that. So I was saying to Mr. Logical, like, well, hey, why don't we take a page from college basketball and just go SEC versus Big Ten, or just rotate it every year, you know, all four conferences playing each other. And even back to take it even further, back in the day, you had the bracket busters. You know, you'd have like Murray State against St. Mary's or Virginia Commonwealth playing against someone. And then you were able to use that as a resume builder for an at-large NCAA tournament chance. You know, but in college football, we do a lot of talking, but not a lot of playing. So you might say things like, hey, if Indiana, because, you know, they're 5-0 this year, if Indiana was in the ACC, or, you know, hey, if I could just take, you know, Penn State out of the Big Ten, get them away from Ohio State and Michigan, put them in the ACC, we'd have a national title contender. Well, we can't and we don't. So this is the next best thing, you know, is having these conferences play against each other. It's good for the fans. I mean, as a Florida State fan, obviously I have no room to talk right now this year. But just even looking at our schedule, you know, that game later on this season against Charleston Southern would be a lot more fun if it was against, say, Colorado and Dion. You know, if it was against, say, Washington, you know. So, you know, a few years ago, before the Big Ten started backstabbing everybody, there actually was an alliance. The Big Ten, Pac-10, you know, Big 12, they all came together because the SEC was doing their thing. They grabbed Texas and Oklahoma, and they said, oh, crap, what do we do now? So they decided to form this alliance that would work with each other, help each other, take down the mighty, mighty SEC. And then the Big Ten decided, no, we want to be like them. So give us USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. So that's how we got here to where now, you know, the Big Ten and SEC are talking about scheduling alliances. And I'm going to say it one more time. AFC, NFC, here we come. So then yesterday, you know, we were sitting around going through the news cycle and everything, and then it finally hit us. The rumors that we had heard a week prior are finally true. The Gonzaga Bulldogs, a.k.a. the ZAGS, have zigged their way to the Pac-12. So this is a great move for Gonzaga because they're in a dead conference, right? It's them and St. Mary's. Every now and again, USF, San Francisco, not South Florida, might make some noise. Maybe you'll have a Santa Clara with a Pajewski, you know, have a good team every so often. They had BYU for quite some time, but they're gone now to the Big 12. So it was literally just Gonzaga and St. Mary's. So now you put them in a conference, you know, and you get more exposure because right now, you know, when they were in the WCC, it was just them and St. Mary's who play in Moraga, California. You know, then you had these other little schools, San Diego, in a big city, but private school. You know, San Francisco, like I mentioned, who hasn't really been a factor since Bill Russell. You know, Pepperdine. out there in Malibu on the beach, but what do they bring to the table? So now I get exposure because now I'm putting you in growing states, or you're going to be playing games in growing states, recruiting against people from growing states, like say Colorado and Idaho. Like you're going to enhance your profile, because one of the biggest knocks on Gonzaga every year is that, oh, yeah, they play the out of conference games early, but then once January hits, they don't play another game until the end of the season, and they get back to March Madness, and that hurts them in their run to a national title. Can't say that no more. Can't say that no more. And the biggest loser in all of this so far is UNLV, because now that they've pledged to stay in the Mountain West, you look at it and you think, what was the vision there? Because like I mentioned, you got Colorado State, growing Colorado, close to Denver, about an hour away. You got Boise, Idaho, depending on what metrics you read, is somewhere in the top 4 of growing states, as far as people moving there. You got Fresno and San Diego State. One's bringing you Southern California, one's bringing you a different piece of California. But you decided to hitch your wagon to Wyoming, Reno, and I guess now El Paso, since UTEP is now a member of the Mountain West Conference. Hawaii, who we talked about already, doesn't bring anything to the table ratings-wise, even though we love the culture. We love the dancing before the games, the pregame rituals and all that. But what do they bring to the table that's going to be viable for your future? Now, you could look at it and say, hey, I want to be the big dog in the little pond or whatever, big fish in the little pond, if you're UNLV, and I got access to the playoff. If I go undefeated, I can make the NCAA tournament and get this bid, this automatic bid. But then if you're stuck collecting from FCS, what does it do for you? I mean, maybe you can get UC Davis and Sacramento State. I know we've talked about the Dakota schools. We talked about the Montana schools, but you need to think bigger picture, and maybe those California schools come through. I just saw today that the Sacramento Kings are going to allow the Hornets to use their basketball arena. So maybe Sacramento State will be a player down the road. But if you're going that far down the road and you already got San Diego and Fresno represented in the Pac-12, maybe they'll end up in the Pac-12 with Gonzaga. So for Gonzaga, their basketball program wasn't going anywhere anyway, but now this just solidifies it because they have better competition during the regular season. And then finally, it's that time of week. It's Wednesday night. So, we got Thursday night football tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow with picks for Friday. Syracuse, UNLV, Oregon, Michigan State, Houston, and TCU, so on and so forth. But for the time being, we're going to focus on the professionals, the NFL. You got a division matchup. Last week, the Falcons took out the Saints. Came in all-time series, tied at 55. Here you go. This time, they're bringing in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off of a big win over the Eagles. This series, 31-30. Tampa Bay has won 6 out of the last 8. And you want more storyline? You got Coach Raheem Morris back against the team that tried to end him. He had a 10-6 season as Tampa Bay's head coach in his first year. Didn't go so well after that. They got rid of him. He ended up in Atlanta on the staff when they went to the Super Bowl, 28-3 and all that good stuff. So he wants this game. Baker Mayfield's coming in looking like an MVP candidate, second in the league in touchdowns behind Sam Darnold last week against Philadelphia, 30 of 47 for 347 and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, Mr. 1,000 every year of his career, coming off of a 2-catch, 17-yard game, only goes 8 catches, 94 yards, and a TD. So, we were looking at this. Mel Kiper a couple of weeks ago was talking about the 2 deep and how the offenses are suffering. And Tampa said, no, we're going to go to our guy, old reliable, and we're going to turn this season around. Because remember, they were coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Broncos. Now, Tampa Bay's been injured, whether that's been the secondary, whether that's been on the interior. They've had some injuries. But regardless of who's playing, regardless of who's out, They are going to blitz, blitz, blitz because they're playing against Kirk Cousins coming off of that Achilles. He's only 4 games in, still isn't really moving around a lot, I would say. Threw for 238 yards last week. But the problem with the Falcons that I have is I just don't understand them. I don't understand their plan. They don't have an employment plan. They just say, we're going to do things. And I've been talking to Mr. Logical about this. Kirk Cousins is one of those quarterbacks that always makes the right play. He has the right read. He goes to the right place to deliver the football. But sometimes you got to take risks, damn it. I'm not saying come out here and be Brett Favre. I'm not saying come out here and look like Josh Allen from the last few years. But you might have to throw the ball in harm's way to make a play. And you have playmakers. You got Drake London. You got Darnell Mooney, who's been a revelation this year. You got Kyle Pitts, 3 targets, 0 catches. That ain't going to do it. Then I look at the running game, right? They got 2 good running backs, including one futuristic stallion that's going to take over this league. And yes, I said stallion. I don't call women stallions. It's just not a thing that I do. But anyway, you look at this, last week, Algier, 8 carries for 60 yards, Bijan, 7 carries for 28 yards. Why the hell is Bijan Robinson only getting 7 carries in a game? In a tightly contested matchup that came down to the wire at that. Now, the reason that I'm picking Tampa Bay to win this game, it's not because Atlanta, didn't score an offensive touchdown last week against the Saints. It's not because Kyle Pitts has been ineffective and, I guess, for lack of better words, neutered. I think the problem is third down conversions. Can you stay on the field? Tampa's offense has been clicking with precision this year. So Atlanta's going to need to hold on to the ball to keep them off the field. Now, they went 4 for 11 on third down against the Saints last week, or I keep saying last week, but it was just a couple of days ago. But they went 4 for 11 on third down, which is an improvement because if you add it all up together on the course of the season, they are 10 for 38. And then when you look back at the games that the Falcons have won this year, it was Philly Monday night, Kirk Cousins with a minute left trying to lead the team down the field. Last week, they got bailed out because of a pass interference call against the Saints. It was the right call, but still the Saints bailed them out. So it's not as if the Falcons have looked like the team that I thought they would look like because I picked the Falcons to win the division. It's not like they've looked like that team. They're just squeaking by. And, you can't live. I said it about the Steelers. You can't live that close to the edge and not slip at some point. Tampa Bay has been consistent. The outlier was the Denver game. They put it on Washington in week 1, rookie quarterback, all that good jazz. They beat Philly, who was injured last week. So it's not as if Tampa has went through murderer's row themselves, right? Or it's not as if but the difference is that Tampa in their victories have put it on teams. Even against Detroit, they won 20-16. Detroit outgained them by 200 plus yards, but Tampa made the necessary plays when the game was on the line. They kept Detroit when they were in the red zone. They kept them out of the end zone. So I'm going with Tampa Bay 24-20. Who you got? Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all of the free things. Do all the good things. And I'll see you tomorrow when Sports Reports is ordered. We'll be back on Friday with picks, more picks, and an NBA Eastern Conference preview. Peace and love.